Right, Martin, looking ahead to Sunday with Man City, how tough is it for Arsenal's players knowing that every game now is a must-win and the pressure is on them?
I think that's the lifestyle for an Arsenal player for the last 2 seasons. What we've seen, going toe-to-toe with Man City, and it's them again at the weekend. A difficult game, obviously, in the Champions League. We're looking to secure, a place in the top 8, which would be very useful from an Arsenal point of view. Particularly, that means there's no game in February, and you can push things back to March for the last 16. Probably a couple of signings would be in place by then. You bed them in, and you get Saka back again out on the team. So there's a lot of pluses for wanting to go through in the top 8 Champions League. I think it's a bit difficult, isn't it, to really assess the Champions League. I really like the new format. It's been interesting to see Real Madrid, PSG and Man City struggling because they kind of do their homework, home and away on teams, and then they seem to be too strong. But in this situation of a one-off game, it's changed. It seems to have changed the format completely. So Liverpool will be now looking dangerously at, is it a PSG or a Real Madrid or a Man City that they play next, potentially, if those teams qualify, by the way. So there's been a much more interesting in the Champions League, 2 extra games, so the workload goes up. But Arsenal, Man City at the weekend, top 2 last 2 seasons, a huge game. Arsenal at home. We're looking to have the young fullback involved. They don't want that to, young Skelly getting sent off at the weekend. Be very interesting to see the fallout on that. Michael Oliver getting so much criticism, which is not healthy. But nonetheless, let's look at the actual sending off in isolation, and let's see if it's fair or not. I just seemed a little bit harsh at the weekend, but he's an important player now for Arsenal, and they won't want to be without him for 3 matches.
Now, it's the first meeting between Arsenal and City since Haaland's infamous "be humble" comment and Bernardo Silva accusing Arsenal of lacking the mentality needed to win trophies. Do you think Arsenal players will have those comments ringing in their ears ahead of this match?
I think if you look what's happened this year, Bernardo Silva's a great player. I don't know if those are great comments, but it's been a wake-up call for them. They realise that you can be brilliant one minute and very ordinary the next. The way that City have kind of lost that X factor this season has been really shocking to see. Look, they're one defeat now in 8, so they're on their way back. But they still have those shocks. The PSG game, no one expected them to be 2 up and lose 4-2. So it's not quite the infallible City of old. This is an Arsenal team that's emerging. And Man City have won the 4 years on the trot. They are a team of winners. And we all feel that they'll just slot back into that. It won't be easy against Arsenal at the Emirates, and they'll find any kind of weakness. I don't think they're as strong now, City. I think with Walker particularly not being there, was always somebody that used to tie us up a little bit. So interesting to see how they're going to make their new signings work, which seem to make a difference to them, a boost to them. Perhaps their failure to purchase in the summer and keep it honest and keep spinning those plates maybe affected the group. They've still got some wonderful players in there, and Arsenal have to make sure they do the job, and it won't be an easy one against Man City, that's for sure.
Now, you mentioned Man City's weaknesses there. Which areas do you think Arsenal should be looking to exploit?
Well, their defence has been leaking goals, and there's no Diaz this time round. Stones is only just coming back from injury. The new signing makes a mistake early on. So there is an issue there, but I think what was encouraging for them was they got back to playing their football again. They got as many footballers out there as they possibly can. De Bruyne coming off the bench. Gundogan is somebody that I really like. He's someone who's got to be stopped. And they're progressive. Haaland is, when you go tight on them, they find Haaland now, and he looks like he's coming back through the gears, getting his confidence back. So our 2 central defenders are going to have to be really strong against him.
Martin Odegaard is still out with a bug. Who do you think will be Arsenal's key man?
Nwaneri will come in and do that job now, as he did at the weekend. I thought he's been quite magnificent. Picked up an unlucky injury to his hip flexor and was out for a little while, and then he had to be sacrificed when they went a man down at the weekend. So he'll come in and do the role, but obviously we want Odegaard now to come back. We were without him for 12 matches. I thought he was back to his best, certainly in Europe in last midweek, and then against Spurs. So you need him back again. I'm pretty certain he'll be back. If it's a cold or a flu, players can recover very quickly from these things.
Obviously, you mentioned that Nwaneri be slotted in on the right wing. If Martinelli's on the left wing, would you rather have Arsenal's current wingers or Man City's wingers starting in Mamouche and Foden?
Well, Foden's a bloody good player.
So he's coming to form right at the perfect time.
Mamouche is. They just spent 75 million, and City have flex their muscles by spending £150 million in this transfer window. So they're still there and still keen, still wanting to invest and push the boundaries. So no, I think Martinelli just needs to start scoring goals, obviously sharpening up in that area. You know, we've got no Saka, so that's an issue for Arsenal. And numerically, I think they need to buy somebody in the final third.
Now, Arsenal haven't lost a Big Six team since they lost to Man City at the back end of 22-23 season. Since that game, Arteta's approach to Big Six games has been totally different. And how impressed have you been by that tactical tweak?
Well, if you remember, you know, Arsenal got a hell of a lot of stick, didn't they, for when they went down to 10 men in the last visit at the start of the season, and trying to hang on to, I'm not sure what else they were to do. They sat on the edge of their own box. We've seen other teams do that this season and get credit for that. So, no, I think this is maybe more evenly matched. Nonetheless, though, you have to remember what this team's achieved, and if they quickly return to form, so there'll be an awful lot of respect shown by both the manager and Arsenal players. But I do feel they have the means now. I think they're better, stronger defensively than City. I think set pieces, they're particularly well organised. But it's in the final third. They still need to convince. They still need to get more goals. You know, Havertz had 2 or 3 chances again at the weekend. Didn't quite go his way. You know, Calafiori was showing the strikers how it's done. So that area, keep creating the chances. When they get the confidence back in front of goal, then maybe this is the game to do it. But certainly there's that big game atmosphere at the Emirates. A place will be rocking at the weekend.
So, yeah, looking back to your playing days, you played against David Seaman in his first game against Arsenal's Manchester City. What was that like playing against him, and what was the banter like in the build-up to that?
Do you know, I think I remember being more concerned with playing against Nicholas Anelka, because Nicholas is a player that just doesn't get talked about enough. He's incredible talent. He wasn't an arrogant man, he was a shy man, but not in front of goal. So I remember Kolo Touré having to give me kind of extra protection that day. I was 37, 38. So it was a big thing playing against Dave. We played the last game together, winning the cup final in 2003 against Southampton. And Dave wanted to continue. I think he took a bad injury, though, shortly after that. So he had to retire. But no, Dave was, of course, one of the all-time great goalkeepers.
Just touch on Anelka there, because he was a fantastic talent. How good could he have been at Arsenal? And do you think he could eclipse the achievements what Thierry Henry did?
Oh, definitely. Without doubt, whatever it was that Henry achieved, and they were big things, he was an incredible striker, and Anelka had that gift as well, that pace. He just wanted to go on a different journey. He wasn't really that patient. I think his family around him wanted to fast-track his career. Ended up at Real Madrid, at Chelsea, at Liverpool. I was really surprised when Liverpool let him go. It was almost a relief to see the back of him out of the Premier League, because for anyone who's played against him, he was an incredible talent, so naturally gifted. But I think he probably could have stayed at Arsenal, and everything Henry did. We'll never know now, of course, but it would have been lovely to have seen them both together. What a sight that would have been. Now,
he's actually very complimentary of yourself. He called you the toughest player he's ever played against, and he credited you for helping him to adapt to English football. So what was the training like?
Nicholas Anelka.
Yeah.
Goodness me, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in an interview with Bolton's website, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just thought he was misunderstood. And you think about how young he was. He was 17 years of age, and he'd come to a foreign country. I tried to put myself in his shoes, where he didn't really speak that much. I mean, his English now is amazing, but at that point it wasn't. Whereas a lot of the other guys who followed, they seemed to pick up the language very quickly. Maybe he was sensitive, but I've not seen a 17-year-old with the talent he had. I trained with all these guys, with the Ian Wrights and Bergkamps and Omris. And Anelka sits up alongside those guys. He doesn't get talked about enough, but let me tell you, he wasn't in their shadow. He was a remarkable talent.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.